If you had told me just over a year ago that Marvel would not only release a genuinely good movie, but that movie would also be the Thunderbolts one, I would have burst out laughing right then and there, and I probably would have peed myself. I would have doubted the intelligence of anyone who told me this. Yet here we are in May 2025. And finally, Marvel managed to do what we thought would be physically impossible. Make a good movie with good acting, wild action, and above all, manage to make a movie with characters. Who would have thought that for a movie to work well, it needed to have characters with at least a minimum of complexity, right? Practically any Marvel audiovisual production released after Endgame. I have to admit, it's surprising that among all the Marvel movies that have come out lately, it's the Thunderbolts one. Precisely, the one that has achieved the historic milestone of, and pay attention to this, making a good movie. I'm not even talking about an excellent film or a masterpiece worthy of a standing ovation and people saying, this is cinema. Just an entertaining movie with such good pacing and characters that I swear I didn't even notice when the 2 hours of the film had already passed. And yes, Marvel has been doing things so stupidly wrong that the fact that a movie is just decent is already enough for everyone to start saying that Marvel has come back to life. But is the movie really that good? Or is it just another lie created by the internet trying to justify their spending on a movie ticket? Let's find out today. So, come here with your Uncle BLC little ones, and I'll tell you about these movies that are so... BLs, I'm curious why you focus on dark movies instead of the latest Captain America film. Are your interests shifting? To begin with, I'm not interested in talking about that thing. And to finish, the truth is that movie, from the trailers and from everything people were saying about it, seemed to be the most generic and boring thing in the world. And I have to tell you that it's true. Harrison Ford doesn't do a bad job at all considering he's replacing the late actor William Hurt. And his version of Red Hulk doesn't look that bad. However, the movie is incredibly generic and unoriginal. And on top of that, it suffers from the horrible syndrome of my movie is so mediocre that I have to spoil the most shocking plot twist in all of my promotional material. At least they had the decency to keep the leader a secret, but honestly, who the hell cares about the leader at this point? But anyway, enough beating around the bush. Let's get started with the review. All of this begins with our iconic Marvel Studios logo. Or at least that's what I'd say if it hadn't been drastically altered by absolute darkness. Like that, edgy, dark, essential, void, wholesome, my machete. Then we have the character Yelena Belova, who is in the middle of a pretty important infiltration mission. Delighting us with a well-executed action sequence, surprisingly entertaining compared to typical Marvel Cinematic Universe fare. You know, that cinematic universe whose latest movies had action scenes that looked like cheap PlayStation 3 renders. Then, Yelena is ambushed by a scientist who tells her she needs to be careful because what she's investigating is very dangerous, and that her boss is bad. They're not who they appear to be. Yelena ultimately kills everyone and destroys the building, but the extent is unclear. However, she at least had the decency to rescue Koi from the lab. And now, surely many of you are wondering, who the hell is Yelena? And why should I care about this character I'm just getting to know? That's the thing, little subscriber who just walked into my house to ask that curious question. Sit down, I'll make you some coffee. With the end of Endgame and also the end of its first big era, Marvel pushed for the creation of a lot of content to expand its universe and prepare for the next phase. And among those projects was the Black Widow movie, a project with quite a few things to criticize. The main issues were that it was a prequel about a character who died 4 movies ago, and there was another problem as well. The movie was released just as people were sheltering from that virus. You know the one, right? So the only legal ways to watch the movie were to risk going outside and see if your local theater was still operating. The other option was quite a bit stranger, paying for a premiere access that Disney Plus offered so you could watch it from the comfort of your home. But that crap cost €22, plus the $9 that the subscription already cost back then. One of the few good things about that movie was the introduction of Yelena, who for many was a worthy successor to the original Black Widow. Sorry if there was such a sudden change of topic, but you have to understand that if I'm given the chance to bash something Disney has done in the past, I just can't resist. Getting back on topic, Bucky, previously known as the Winter Soldier, now essentially performs the duties of a politician, which you would know if you had seen the 4th Captain America movie. The truth is that this movie is pretty easy to follow, and that's something that a lot of you will probably love about this film. And the thing is, you pretty much don't need to watch the pile of crap Marvel has made in recent years to understand this film. Not only are there a lot of dialogues between characters that explain their past, their relationships, and all that, but these dialogues don't feel unnatural at all. They don't feel like the writers are desperate for you to understand the characters. They feel like people casually talking about their past. And that's just awesome. This allows someone who hasn't seen the studio's previous movies or series to perfectly understand the what and the why of each of them. No worries if you're unfamiliar with this character. The movie provides a brief explanation of their identity and role. So well, God, for me and for many of you, surely, because not many people watch every single thing Marvel and Disney release. Literally, it must be a completely lobotomized person. Going back to the movie, this Miss Valentina Allegra de Fontaine is being prosecuted because she was supposedly involved in human experiments to create a new superhero. She says it's absurd. They have higher priorities anyway. No Avengers remain to protect Earth, and nothing's been done about it. The fucking president of the United States turned into the Hulk right in the middle of the city. So we need to be more cautious and prepared. I appreciate seeing Bo present at the trial, observing Valentina's speech about heroes and related topics. He must be thinking, damn, I miss the days when there was an apocalypse every 3 days. Valentina denies experimenting on humans to create a superhero. And right after, she proceeds to dismantle and destroy any evidence that proves she was indeed trying to create a new superhero based on human experimentation. Abrupt cuts with contrasting scenes. I love that kind of humor. And yes, I'm actually praising Marvel's humor. I never thought I'd do that again. I laughed like 5 times during this movie. Is this being recorded? So Valentina talks to her assistant, whose importance in this movie seems excessive to me. Like, seriously, why the hell do they give so much screen time to this girl when we don't even know her name? Sorry, what was Valentina saying? She asks her assistant, whose name is Mel. She asks if her men have already been assigned to their mission, and she says yes. All of them, except one, because one of them was Yelena herself, who went to see her father. The Red Guardian, also known as the communist Captain America, who seems to be completely stuck in life. Yelena is at a crossroads and is unsure about what to do with her life. So her father, Alexei, tells her that as the Red Guardian, his greatest moment of happiness was when he felt proud to serve his nation. He suggests to Yelena that she become a hero like her late sister. Yelena, uninterested in being an Avenger, contacts Valentina to confirm she'll take part in the mission, which consists of entering a warehouse with many valuable things and eliminating a supposed thief who wants to steal them. She enters without much trouble but is ambushed by the United States agent John Walker, who seems determined to kill her. I'll call him Captain America's Seinen. Taskmaster also appears, apparently wanting to kill Captain America's Seinen. Ghost appears, intent on killing Taskmaster. A fight ensues between all parties until Ghost shoots Taskmaster in the head. She quickly defeated a main antagonist from the Black Widow movie, who was prominently featured in the film's promotional material in under 20 minutes of screen time. The filmmakers didn't want to reveal her impending death, despite several hints suggesting the character's limited lifespan in the movies. But seeing this on screen honestly shocked me a bit. I hope that in the future they include another Taskmaster or something, because both in their debut movie and in this one, their role leaves a lot to be desired. Amidst the chaos of people throwing things at each other during the fights, a capsule was hit, releasing someone. A guy named Bob, whose origins are unknown. With Taskmaster's death, there's no time left as the vault doors close. And meanwhile, Valentina is at some kind of party with the same congressman who was putting her on trial just a few moments ago. He literally tells Valentina that she's really good at cleaning things up. We visited your facilities but found nothing incriminating. Literally, there was nothing usable. And going back to the guys who were locked up, they barely realized that they were all sent by Valentina to eliminate each other. Well, the point of that vault is to store and destroy anything that could incriminate Valentina, including them. And as I already said, the movie treats these characters as if they were completely new, introducing them with expositional dialogue and everything. In fact, Ghost herself says like 50 times that she was raised in a lab. Too many times if you ask me. The movie acknowledges that recent Marvel projects have not garnered significant attention. These guys are the backups of their own original products. Also, to get to know all these characters, you would have had to watch the Black Widow movie to know who Yelena, Red Guardian, and Taskmaster are. You need to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp to know who Ghost is, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series to learn about John Walker and what happened with Captain America's shield. And the title of Captain America. The Hawkeye series to learn a bit more about Yelena, and the latest Captain America movie to know why Bucky became a politician. In the context of the Red Room, there's quite a bit of context here. The thing is, Bucky is very much against Valentina. He attempts to persuade Mel to provide incriminating information while simultaneously contacting the congressman to inform him that he can apprehend Valentina using unconventional tactics. But the congressman insists they must follow the legal process. I love this version of Bucky being forced to take more legal measures, when the bastard could literally just go and use his damn metal arm to do things the old school way. Dish out some honor and robotic badassery. You can tell he's not at all happy with his job as a politician in a boring suit. That's not his style, right? Back to the guys. They're in deep trouble in the vault. It's so tough that even Ghost, with his ability to phase through walls, can't escape. I find it really funny that John and Ghost are looting Taskmaster's corpse while Yelena watches as these two lunatics are desecrating the body of a girl who was manipulated. She's experienced it her whole life. As people lack context, it was very intense. Nocto paranormis. Valentina turns on an incinerator to kill everyone, and Ghost escapes through the wall, seemingly abandoning the others. However, she managed to open the door for them from the other side, allowing them to escape before it was too late. Taskmaster was roasted alive. Honestly, he wasn't a good character. Goodbye, Taskmaster. So Valentina realizes that the unstable bastards she sent to kill each other are miraculously working together. So she'll have to take care of them personally. All this while Red Guardian is listening because, well, my buddy rented a limousine, and it just so happened that he overheard it. Meanwhile, the Papas struggle to work together, and everyone seems very unstable. Well, they seem that way, but they're not. Yelena, a lifelong assassin, recently lost her sister Ava. Ghost was turned into a weapon at a very young age, and John went from one day to the next to becoming a super soldier. At least he has a wife and son, which counts for something. But it's not just them, because Bob is also dealing with problems, since he thinks everything would be better if they left without him. But then Yelena tells him that it's normal to feel that way, alone and on the way to total darkness, almost as if he's falling into a pit of emptiness. Bob is uncertain about how to deal with the darkness within himself. The questions of comprehension and significance remain. Yelena suggests that he should fully repress his emotions and move on, which may not be the healthiest approach. But anyway, remember kids, repressing your feelings deep in your heart isn't good. Despite their differences, the group surprisingly agrees and reaches the entrance together, only to find something strange. Yelena and John experience hallucinations of their past. Yelena recalls a girl's brutal death, while John remembers his strained relationship with his wife and son, as if something from that past was being repressed by them, and something was forcing it to suddenly come out. And, well, after seeing how Bucky washes his damn vibranium arm in the dishwasher, that was something that made all of us laugh quite a bit. The guys realize that they're completely surrounded by soldiers. So another fight scene starts, pretty well done considering Marvel Studios' mediocre standards lately, which ends with them escaping. And surprisingly, none of them betray each other. The thing is, to escape, they stole a military vehicle, disguised themselves as soldiers, and didn't really think through what they were going to say when inspected. But luckily for them, Bob decides to cause a scene to distract the soldiers so the rest can escape bravely, sacrificing himself. And the only thing I can think here is, what the hell was Ghost doing when Bob escaped? Weren't they both together behind the car? Anyway, when they see Bob causing a scene, the army fills his body with lead. He survives, shooting up into the sky, then falling back down like a meteorite onto the surface. The look on Yelena's face when she sees Bob sacrificing himself for them is captivating. It's as if it's the first time someone has cared enough to save her like that. Amidst the commotion, John, Ava, and Yelena continue their escape. However, the latter managed to take some documents from the lab and discovered what Bob really is. The Sentry Project, a superhero with the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. It was believed to be lost, since all the test subjects had died except for one, apparently. They'll deal with that later. For now, they must escape. Fortunately, Red Guardian arrives to save them. I love this scene. It's just like your nosy family member when they see you with your friends. It's touching how he arrives, anxious about Yelena, shouting, simply because she's present. They journey peacefully. Alexei jokes a bit with John about how he's also a Captain America in his own way. They also discuss the Thunderbolts, a children's sports team Yelena played on when she was young, which she briefly mentioned earlier while they were in the vault, and that's the moment of, oh, he said it. So in the end, the name Thunderbolts comes from Yelena's childhood team. I really like this moment. Well, like I said, these dialogues don't feel expositional. They feel more like human, mundane, genuine conversations, nothing more. Alexei and Yelena really seem like a father and daughter talking about all sorts of nonsense, an outgoing father making his daughter feel embarrassed. Everything is fine until they realize the army is chasing them again, as usual. Alexei deserves applause for throwing a Molotov while armored. Just when all seemed lost, Baki arrived and defeated the whole army. It would be great if he didn't send them flying. The Winter Soldier always looks tough, damn it. That guy has an incredible aura. He's the aura farmer of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He even goes as far as to have a reference to Terminator 2 and everything. Meanwhile, in New York, Valentina has taken Bob to his new building, the former Avengers Tower. Damn. Finally, Marvel fans have been theorizing since 2017 about who the hell bought the Stark Tower back then. Had the Fantastic Four, Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division, or Norman Osborn bought the Stark Tower? Had everyone in the world purchased it? Anyway, seeing that now, he has a weapon of interplanetary destruction. A few meters away, Valentina tries to act more maternal with Bob to manipulate him. But the thing is that Bob not only has the power of exploding suns as such, but he also has a hidden power that shows people their greatest traumas. Something quite creepy and with context. And that's how he does it with Valentina, who is shocked to see her traumatic past in such a realistic way. Although it initially appears that she intends to leave Bob, he assures her that he can manage his power. An odd situation. Bucky has captured the Thunderbolts, who attempt to reveal Valentina's schemes to him. But of course, trying to explain the existence of a flying and invulnerable man can be complicated, especially when it's explained to you by a group of mercenaries, who don't look very trustworthy at first glance, and half of them seem to be drug addicts or alcoholics. But that's not all. Bucky discloses that John's attitude drove his wife and son away. It's not surprising, considering this man took on immense responsibility quickly by becoming the new Captain America, having a large part of the world against him, and not even the Avengers themselves accepting him as such. And when you try to prove to the world that you are capable by injecting yourself with an experimental super soldier serum, you end up killing a man? In front of the public, being labeled by everyone as a simple and vulgar stain on the name of Captain America, which gave us some of the best shots in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. John Walker wearing the Captain America suit and his shield stained with the blood of someone who, to the public, was a criminal begging for mercy. Now imagine for a second what it must have been like to live a normal life with all that behind you. To see how the whole world despises you, to the point where you don't even have the strength to try to change that. And you just go with the flow and accept your role in the world. Obviously, Bucky doesn't believe a single word these brutes are saying. But it's not until Mel calls them to warn them that Valentina might have control of the Sentry Project. And that's when Bucky frees everyone so they can help him stop Valentina. That's the moment when Yelena tells the plain truth. In reality, they're the most unqualified for this job, a fact that Bucky fully grasps. I mean, are you talking to the guy who was tortured and manipulated by Hydra to eliminate who knows how many people for decades against his will? He knows perfectly well that the past is something you can't erase, but he also knows there are only two options. Either get up and do something to change, or just stay where you are and live with it forever. So they decide to get up and rescue Bob. Alexei is thrilled to relive his glory days, and I love how he feels on the way to the tower. The latter tries to make conversation with Bucky, and with all that about both of them being super soldiers and all that stuff, the plan is straightforward: get in and out. A quick 20-minute adventure. So literally, they destroy the entrance with the vehicle and start taking out soldiers left and right. Also that Valentina would tell them there was no need, that they were already invited. Anyway, man, the comedy in this movie is damn funny. Strangely, it's absurd, but in a good way. It works really well. It's charming. So they arrive, and Valentina introduces them to the new top superhero, Sentry, the most powerful man, stronger than all the Avengers combined. In theory, this is entirely true if we adhere to the comics. I appreciate that he's a superhero, similar to the style in The Boys, not in the dark aspect, but in the superhero sense. Tailored to impress, like a product, a vibrant suit, a grand name. They even colored his hair. The plan is straightforward. Valentina summoned the press to witness Sentry executing a rebel group, specifically them. Can you tell they were just humans fighting a god? This guy means business. He even goes so far as to rip Bucky's arm off and beat him with it. The same arm Bucky was so proud of. They once told him it was nearly invincible. Now it's just a toy that'll end up in the dishwasher. Fortunately for the Thunderbolts, Sentry allows their escape, deeming it pointless to kill them. Valentina isn't pleased and demands he do it. Sentry responds that he must obey her, but questions her reasoning. And does he do it? Damn it! Sentry rebels. Damn, he rebelled, but Valentina obviously had a contingency plan. In case for some inexplicable reason, the mentally unstable guy with the power of millions of exploding suns, who has no moral obligation whatsoever to help her or obey her, went out of control. And boom, Sentry's brain got fried. However, getting rid of him wasn't that simple. Instead, he approved something far more sinister. Meanwhile, our team of anti-heroes is dealing with the fact that they just got stomped. The villain also has a weapon of mass destruction under her control. Beyond that, they're grappling with the reality that they remain a group of hopeless, pathetic losers with no foreseeable redemption. To the point that Yelena leaves and Alexei goes after her. After all, the latter is her father figure, but Yelena herself tells him that she felt abandoned by him all this time. He never called, not even when her sister left her for good. He knows he was wrong and believed his daughter would never want to see him again, which she denies. It's just that she has always felt alone. Finishing missions, taking lives, then returning home alone. She spent her days reflecting on her life's accomplishments and repeating the process daily. Natasha recalls one of her first Black Widow tests was to kill a girl in cold blood. Alexei assures her that he is there for her. A little late, but he's there now. Remembering those little moments they had when they were a happy family. And that no matter the mistakes they've made in the past, because he doesn't see her mistakes. And that's why they need each other. Just as the family relationships seem to be on the mend, something happens. In the sky, a completely dark figure, which is not Roddick, overshadowed. The Void makes its appearance, the emptiness of Void. Pop's other identity, the one who truly understood the context? I find it fascinating how they managed to create a final villain. With a genuinely terrifying appearance, more or less a completely black silhouette, with two small white dots for eyes, whose powers disintegrate a person completely in a second. Silently and without any explosion, they simply vanish, becoming ghosts like Momo. It's quite terrifying. The people behind this movie said they were very inspired by the traces left by people after the bombings of Japan in World War I, which gives this a pretty dark layer. Making a few helicopter pilots disappear was enough to cause absolute chaos in the city. But luckily, these second-rate anti-heroes were there to save all the citizens they could, both alone and united as a team. This group of misfits is slowly managing to build a new path toward a bright future, where they can be more than simple heroes, saving everyone from the elderly to children. But the emptiness is inevitable and unavoidable. Really? No? Like that idiot Morale, not Blasco, not the other idiot Morale, that one. Now, all jokes aside, the scene where Alexei saves a girl who disappears seconds later really surprised me, especially from Marvel. It was essential whether you like it or not. As the Void advances, Yelena chooses to stand in front of the man who once attempted to sacrifice himself for their escape, and she dives of her own will into the Void. While her companions watch in horror as their friend or daughter could have died instantly before their eyes, they also try to save everyone they can. Surprisingly, Yelena survives. The Void doesn't kill, but traps people in a repeating, traumatic memory. For Yelena, it was the first person she witnessed die along with her Red Room training and emotional downfall after all her suffering. In the end, she got in touch with Bob, who seems to be hiding in a safe room filled only with the sounds of his mother. Being assaulted by her father, repressed memories while he stays safe in his room, his own impenetrable fortress where he felt secure. But then Yelena tells him that it's wrong, that the advice she gave him in the vault was wrong. You can't just push that darkness deep into your heart and keep it to yourself. You have to let it out and fight with it. That won't make it go away, but it will make the burden you carry inside lighter and you'll be able to overcome it. This emptiness is shared with people who know what it feels like to have a void in their hearts. As Bob appeared prepared to face reality and find a way back home with Yelena, the environment itself began attacking them, as if resisting Bob's attempt to overcome the situation. And in the end, it seemed that the pain and darkness were stronger, until Alexei and the others came to help. Each endured their own hell until they reached Bob and Yelena for rescue. Being here, seeing that this is the calmest room in Bob's mind, Yelena decides that to try to find a way out, they should now go to the worst room, the most horrible one. They visit traumatic places such as the dining room where his father was severely beaten. His old job dressed as a chicken was very satisfying. Or most importantly, the lab where it all started. Literally. The same lab where Bob became Sentry was the same lab from the beginning of the movie that Yelena blew up. Bob recalls being promised an experimental strength-enhancing drug that would make him someone important, finally giving him motivation. And that desire to simply be someone in life ended up giving rise to a creature that is now completely consuming New York. I'm not sure where Spider-Man is currently. He might be hanging out with his friend. Now, face to face, the Void separates Bob from his teammates for a one-on-one, which Bob seems to dominate. On top of his opponent, Bob throws punch after punch at his darkness, which consumes him more as his fury and the blows intensify. That's when Yelena and the others manage to get close to him and deliver the crucial message. And now he's not alone, and he never will be again. It's the most shonen anime, power of friendship moment I've ever seen in a Marvel movie, and I have to say, I like it. For now, ending with the void and freeing all from darkness, with everything resolved and Bob's memory of the mental events mostly gone, only one issue remains. Valentina is there, completely alone and unarmed, so our protagonist goes straight to her, ready to give her a little bit of honor and essence. But this was always her plan. Or at least it was when she realized that Sentry was practically immortal. It bothers me that I wanted them to tear her apart. Tableaus took control of my mind. She called a press conference not only so they couldn't kill her on camera, but also to turn the Thunderbolts into the new team of heroes. They saved New York City from a dark entity, but not everything went according to Valentina's plan. And it's Yelena herself who tells her that now she belongs to them. After all, they know the truth and can expose the Sentry experiment and ruin Valentina in an instant. Besides, we have to remember that they have the damn Sentry on their side. I mean, 99.9999999999999% of the team's total power. After years of suffering, it appears Yelena and her companions will finally receive some admiration and recognition. Thus, the credits begin, which are quite interesting in themselves, showing images of newspapers and magazines that make multiple parodies. But above all, they show us that the public is debating whether these are actually the new Avengers, or if they're just crap. Suddenly, introducing a group of obscure side characters as the new Avengers can be quite odd for many people. I mean, they all look like criminals except for Bob. He's fine. This will likely happen with existing Marvel fans in real life, considering these are the new Avengers, though I have to say, I prefer them. In the first post-credit scene, Alexei's dream of recognition finally comes true as his face appears on a cereal box, which is quite adorable. Now that's an achievement, and the second one is the most important. Over a year after the new Avengers team is formed with their new base in the tower, where Sentry nearly killed them, the members appear to work well together and get along. And of course, Bob is there. Bob still can't control the void, so he's not really someone who fights much. Which obviously is a way to keep this character contained, because if not, well, there wouldn't be much of a point. Unless Null shows up. Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, registered the Avengers name to form his own team. They joke about being called Avengers with a Z instead of an S. It's going to be tough for this guy to assemble a team more lovable than the current one. Who could he possibly bring in? Red Hulk? But now comes the most important part. The base of operations detects something in the atmosphere. And that something is none other than the Fantastic Four's ship entering Earth. Which maybe gave us the huge spoiler that at the end of the Fantastic Four movie, their universe went to hell. And that's it. I have to say, it had been a long time since I genuinely enjoyed a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie this much. The company released increasingly subpar and lackluster products with each new launch. It's incredible that for a Marvel movie to be good, all they had to do was focus on the damn characters. With a brief post-credits scene emphasized the future. It was easy, which made them great in the past. I don't know why they've forgotten. Basically, like the Marvel movies before Infinity War, movies with their own stories that focused on their characters, with brief mentions of potential future conflict. One of the worst things that could have happened to the Marvel Cinematic Universe was that everything became overly interconnected. After Endgame, we had countless projects that only felt like trailers for other future projects, whose central plot was completely empty. Just a few months ago, we had the Captain America movie, which was mediocre in almost every aspect. Suddenly, this movie comes along and surprises us all, despite not being the greatest film ever made. This should make Marvel reflect on their actions over the last 6 years. However, that doesn't mean this movie is bad. Quite the contrary. But people are applauding this movie as if it were a cinematic masterpiece. It's precisely because everything we had received before was absolute crap. Despite their traumatic and pessimistic pasts, the movie allowed the broken characters to shine and attempt to change their circumstances. And that's something I love about this movie, that it takes characters who shouldn't work on their own or aren't enough. And many of them, in fact, didn't. They bring them together and manage to create a team that feels alive, that feels human. Something like what happened in JoJo's Stardust Crusaders, where each Crusader on their own is good, but not that much. But when you bring them together, it creates the chemistry that made JoJo's Part 3 probably the most famous one. People didn't love Iron Man or Captain America because they were overpowered characters who could do everything without any problems. Captain America is a hero who doesn't possess any extraordinary abilities, contrary to popular belief. And on the other hand, we have Captain Marvel, who I would say is currently the second most powerful hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, basically right behind Sentry, and nobody seems to like her. With Thunderbolts or the new Avengers, we have a completely human cast with heartbreaking pasts that make their redemption feel much more satisfying. The series and movies mentioned earlier where these characters debuted are now seen as complementary rather than required viewing for this film. An extra for fans to learn more about the characters' origins, their background, actions, and motivations that shape them. I feel somewhat sympathetic towards Taskmaster as I believe he fared the worst with his origin story in his movie. 5 out of 6 isn't too bad, it could be worse. The character of Ghost, or Ava, really shines in this movie. Despite her frequent mentions of being lab-raised, can we forgive her? After all, her suit and powers are really cool. John Walker, the United States agent, excels in his series and continues to impress with his strong performance and cool demeanor. After his development in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, there wasn't much more to explore about him beyond what's been done here. Red Guardian's story interestingly depicts his return to family life after acquiring powers and fame, showcasing both the positive and negative aspects of this transition. In this movie, they struck the ideal balance between a humorous, clownish character and a caring, fatherly one simultaneously. I like this actor due to his work in Stranger Things, where he excels as a surrogate father. In the Black Widow movie, this character came across as foolish even in the gravest scenes. The balance between his comedic and serious acting is excellent, especially with Yelena. Bucky remains unchanged. He's been the Winter Soldier for 11 years, and the guy still has the same incredible aura. We can't get tired of this character. I mean, tell me, I don't think anyone is tired of the Winter Soldier, right? And, well, what can I say about Yelena? She's the movie's main character and delivers an excellent performance. She has more charisma than Black Widow, I must say. Her path involves seeking a purpose beyond killing on orders, attempting to find a reason to live. Finally, finding a team that not only gives her public recognition, but also lets her enjoy family time again. It's not just about having Alexei back, but also about all her companions, like Bob, who is now obligated to be her boyfriend, because it's his turn. Some people complain about minor issues, such as the villain being defeated too easily, or the heroes winning through the power of friendship. And it's like, what did you want? Did you want these guys who couldn't even beat Thanos with his arms tied behind his back and disabled to beat Sentry? Inevitably, it had to end that way. Sentry's whole concept is that to defeat him, you must appeal more to his psychology. It's not worth fighting Sentry head-on. Very few characters have managed to beat or even contain Sentry. The best approach is to try calming him down. For me, it was absolutely perfect. And I like that characters who aren't that strong in terms of, I don't know, military power are at least able to solve such tough problems. That speaks very well of them. Otherwise, they really wanted it. They wanted it. Like, out of nowhere, he could have thrown a grenade at Void, and with that, Void would die, and Bob would come out unscathed and completely freed from Void's control. What kind of movie would do something so stupid? Oh, right, Suicide Squad. Anyway, good night.